Thank you. Yo. So every day, we talk to a lot of companies, in a design agency, and most of the time, when we start talking about the logo, I don't know why, but everybody are scared changing their logo. We have some clients here, so they are not that scared, but not everyone. But I don't know why, the logo is so sacralized, in a way. On my side, I think, logo are overrated. I will let you know what. Because if we don't, innovate and give, more functions to satisfy consumer needs and expectation, on my side, I don't think I will change my mind. That's why when we had to create the identity for the Paris 2024 candidate city, we are trying, to create, more than just a logo. So at that time, the city was competing against, Roma, Los Angeles, Budapest, and more than a beautiful sign, what we wanted to create was an emblem that engages the maximum of people in 2 years with a minimum means. Most of the time, the goal of a logo is just a signature. But the signature, of course, has to be reproducible, in a way. You can reproduce, the signature in every single, medium, on every size. This signature is the face of the company. That's an emblem that will connect, all the action that a brand, will be doing. But before getting, into our case of Paris 2024, candidate, city, I need to tell you a little bit more about the different typologies of logo. The first one, it's what we call, the abstract, iconography. This one, for designer, it's magic. You cannot even describe, what it is. If you ask, how can you name, the Pepsi logo, you cannot even say it. But you feel it's right. But this type of logo needs a little bit more time, to inject, meaning, into it. The second one is the word mark. I think this is the one you are the most familiar with. It's just a typeface, so just letters drawn in a specific way with a specific color. If you look at I don't know, maybe I will teach you something. On the FedEx one, I love the beauty of the arrow that you have just between the E and the X. So some of the people will discover something today. The day I discovered it, I was like, wow, that's the most beautiful logo of the world. And the last one is the pictorial logo. So this one is the most easiest one because you can name it, very easily, and it engage, people, very quickly. But it's very difficult, I think, to make a choice, in a way when you have, to create, a logo. So how, like we do innovation, can we have a more human-centered, design approach, in our logo? When I say human-centered design approach, I don't mean we need to be, that close, to human. But how can we engage, population behind, brand without, going, that far? I'm sure, and you all have, your signature move. What is a signature move? A signature move is very simple. It's a move, if you do it, by example, if I do the Jean-Claude Van Damme split, here, I cannot do it, and I won't do it. Otherwise, I will break my legs, this morning. I'm sure you will automatically and instantly associate, my move, to Jean-Claude Van Damme. And this is what is a signature move. And some of celebrities, already logotyped, their signature move. So when you see this one, everybody recognize, this move. Again, I'm not going to do it, or this one. But here, the exercise was pretty, I would say, simple. It's like they've captured, an extraordinary move, from these two celebrities, and they've created, this sign. But I don't think anyone in this room, so maybe you have like some extraordinary skills, can reproduce, both, Michael Jordan, skills or Michael Jackson, skills. It's going to be very difficult. So what if we create, not capturing, I would say, the extraordinary, but creating the ordinary? And when I mean the ordinary, it's a gesture that anyone can reproduce, in every day, in everywhere. Ordinary doesn't mean that it shouldn't be distinctive. So we can create, an ordinary sign without and being, still, very distinctive. And this is what I call a sign mark. So remember, you have, the word mark, the pictorial logo, the abstract, representation, and here, you have the sign mark. So when we created, this sign, it's a combination of a 2 and a 4 in a stylized way that creates a beautiful, Eiffel Tower. Of course, this sign can be reproduced, in any medium, in any sizes. But the main goal of this logo was to be able to be reproduced, by anyone. And when I was talking about distinctivity, so this sign is so distinctive in a way that even if you don't have, the right colors, or even if it's not the exact, same shape than the original logo, you can still recognize, the logo itself. And when I mean, reproducing by anyone, I mean it could be reproduced by anyone, from political personality, here Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, gold medals in mobility. Tony Estanguet, 3 times, gold medal in canoe slalom. We have, our couple of gold medal, boxing people. And it also can be represented, by creative. Here, myself, 1 time silver medals in light painting. Yeah, I'm not, not gold yet. But more than being a logo, I think that could be reproduced, by a gesture. We wanted that this brand become the gesture itself. Because sharing a brand should be as simple as shaking a hand. It should be as simple as a thumb up to say like. Because we all know, this universal, hand, language or body languages. It's like when you have, the archer pulling back the string, and so of course, all this gesture, it's universal, everybody knows it. But what we're talking about is more this type of gesture. Now, I'll not say every single, but most of the football player or sports player have, their signature when they celebrate, their winning, phase. And this is by observing, this type of, I would say, celebration that we wanted to create, our own gesture. And this gesture is very simple. It's like joining, your 2 hands to create the Eiffel Tower, and the Eiffel Tower in hand sign, means Paris. So when you do like a big event, you don't even need to print 1,000, t-shirts or goodies or whatever. Just, put the people together, make them signs, take the picture and share it. And you have, as much, impression than the people, in the crowd. And to be able, to share, more, all those, logos and sign, you need to have what I call a selfie master. And the selfie master, in that case, was Tony Estanguet. I think he was the best, ambassador, of the Paris 2024, candidate, city. And I don't know how many selfies, he took with people, but basically, just let him, travel around France, around the world, and spread the sign. So when you have a football player like Olivier Giroud, playing for the national team, scoring a game, and instead of doing, his own celebration, look at the camera and do this, I think, the circle is complete. This game was watched maybe by 10 million people in national TV. So you can see, how it could be, impactful just, one gesture. And that now, the player cannot anymore, remove, their shirts and have like messages or whatever, otherwise I will get, yellow cards. So that's the reason why playing with the body could really help, strongly, to vehicle, the brand values, for you. So I know I was talking about the selfie master, but definitely this identity wasn't created to be selfish. It was created to be shareable and done by two people also. And this is what makes also the made for sharing sentence get to life, even more strongly. And you can see the parallel, between the Eiffel Tower, the sign, and the logo, on the background. It really it's kind of like an echo of it. And as you can see, the campaign, it's brought to life, very easily in a way. And this is, why, this identity, will become, and will stay, over time, because we'll have, this type of pictures. And this is what type of picture will stay, over time, basically. But when we designed the identity, as you can see, everybody was trying to do like pictorial logo. But what can you do with the Colosseum? It's very even hard, to do it. No one, can jump, like this or fly like this. So it's just like selling you a dream. On our side, in Paris, the way it's drawn, everybody can do it, touch it, live it. And when you think about gesture, when you think about, the way, Salt Bay, was very famous, last year just by, salting, his meats. So you can feel, how powerful can be a gesture and how viral, it could be. So everybody, was trying, to redo, this gesture, by itself. Yeah. So it's funny because at the beginning of the year, I was reading an article, Words and Picture are so 2017. So that means, that this year is not about, non-traditional, trademark. You can trademark, anything. When I read that, to be honest, at some point I was like very proud because I feel like we've done, our logo in 2015. For me, it wasn't 2017, it was 2015. So in a way, we were quite, innovative, at that time, to use a gesture, as a brand, to vehicle, all the value of Paris 2024. But this article was about Jay-Z. And the fact that Jay-Z was starting, to try, to trademark, his diamond sign. So you can see that now, celebrities are starting, to brand and trademark, their gesture, itself. And this is what's gonna make you think, that there is something going on about that. Your branding is not just about your logo or whatever. You can do even more than that. And I think when I see, all this gesture, going on, all this celebration, I can feel that there is huge opportunity for brands, to take it. I can definitely picture in the future some battles, between, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, like a rock, scissor, a paper, battle. And I think, the battle brand, in the future will look like this. That's the future of branding battle. Thank you.
Well done. Should we do it, everyone?
Yeah, we can.
It's not because we won the bid in France, which is a high pride. Everyone stands up. And it's a morning. We need to stand up and wake up. Everyone stands up. And just have this great feeling of doing it. You've done it for thousands of times. Some of the foreigners have never done it. But how does it feel? It feels good, no?
But the best is to share it. I think the best is to cross it.
Nice.
Even better.
Feels good. Unity.
Touch your neighbor.
Come, Brian and Tom, look. He's
Cross
coming
your
from
arm.
Portland. He's coming from UK. They've never met and they're united by Paris. Great. Congratulations.
Thank
that
you.
was an inspiring presentation. I've got a question for you. Yesterday, Arsene Wenger spoke about the process.
Who is Arsene Wenger?
Huh?
Who is Arsene Wenger?
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
Yeah, I'm kidding.
I don't know. But It was okay yesterday. He's been speaking about the process of becoming a great football player, which is 3 stages when you're on the pitch. One is perceive, one is decide, and one is execute. So you perceive the field of play, to take a decision to make your pass or to kick, and then execute. I think it applies to everything. On your case, as a global creative officer, how do you apply this process? Can you give us some tips? Because creativity has to be objective in a way.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because most of the time people think that creativity, design is about just artistic, thing. I'm not an artist, and I don't think we are artists. There is a science, behind it, and there is like some processes. Of course, at some point, the feeling, is very important, but observing, listening, to consumer, how they react, against, codes and sign, how codes and sign evolve, over time. Maybe, the orange, will mean something, today, but if a brand, come in the market with an orange and say happiness, maybe orange will be about happiness or something else, in the future. So all the codes and sign evolve over time, and we need to learn about that. But in the end, as a football player or whatever, when you are on the pitch, the feeling also, is playing a huge amount of importance. So sometimes you have like a lot of science around it, but creative has some feeling about things that you should trust at some point, and let it and see, how it's gonna live, over time, because we have a little bit the ability to see over time. I'm not predicting the future, but we can feel things a little bit more, and I think we should also listen a little bit more or feeling the way a football player can get, in a schema tactic, but also when he has to improvise, on the field, he do it, the way he wants.
And when it comes to the decision process,
yeah,
because there's your decision to present something, then the one who decides who's the client.
Yeah, that's always a tricky part of the decision process in an agency. You have a lot of people, the strategists, the people who are managing the money and the creative. But yeah, at the time, at some point, someone has to make a decision for sure, and make a decision is one thing. And I think you can believe, in something, but you need to find, the right, rationale behind, what you are doing to be able, to explain where you are going. Because most of the time, as I said, there is a lot of feeling in what we do, even if there is like a rationale. But as, I don't know, these shapes, these colors, this type of letter, the size and the proportion between the element needs to be explained in a very rational way, to the people, because they are not coming from the same world than us. So if I cannot deconstruct my mind and reconstruct
I don't know
it,
if I can explain my logo, honestly.
that's the thing. I'm sure if you ask me, I will be able to deconstruct it and explain to you why it's like this at some point. So that's it.
That's good. And the execution part, you've imagined a new execution, kind of a celebration.
Yeah.
So that's recent, right? It was just on a field of play, mostly.
Yeah.
People celebrating.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the first logos ever to be shared in a way like this, on what I know.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if we are the first one. We were getting, even further. Our initial idea was really to create a really a hand sign, without, the Eiffel Tower or whatever. But the thing is, like, yes, it's just by observing, the way, people are behaving, and you are always thinking about, how, can we share, a logo if you don't have the logo. And you don't have, that much, thing. It's like either you move your body, or you smell it, or you say it. And at some point, the voice is not everywhere, the smell is not everywhere. So at some point, we need to do it, in a way.
Love it.
That's
Congratulations a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.